Do you hear it? The echoes of the past, the whispers of forgotten truths, fragments of memories lost in the shadows. Welcome to BRAINROT, Echoes, where we bring you stories long buried, unravel mysteries cloaked by time, and guide you through the darkest corners of the mind and the universe. Each video is more than just content. It's an echo resonating deep within, urging you to question, to wonder, to explore. Backend index pointing right, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and join us in listening to the echoes the world tried to silence. What did you do? Admiral Chen's voice carried the kind of deadly calm that made even hardened veterans wish they were anywhere else in the galaxy. The Celluloid ambassador's tentacles twitched nervously. We neutralized a potential military threat within our sovereign space. A hospital ship. Chen's words fell like ice chips. You neutralized the HMHS Nightingale, a clearly marked hospital, internationally recognized ship carrying 3,000 patients, including civilians from 12 different species, including your species. Our intelligence, your intelligence, Chen interrupted, was about as reliable as a chocolate teapot in a supernova. The Nightingale's transponder was broadcasting on all frequencies. Its hull was painted with regulation white and red crosses, visible from orbit. It had filed all proper flight plans and permits. Hell, you had 72 of your own citizens aboard receiving treatment for Relian fever. The ambassador's skin shifted to a mottled gray-green, the celluloid equivalent of breaking into a cold sweat. We may have acted hastily. Hastily? Chen's laugh could have frozen helium. You know, it's funny. Humanity spent centuries arguing about the ethics of war. The Geneva Conventions, the Outer Worlds Treaty, the Mars Accords. We actually managed to get most of the galaxy to agree on some basic rules of engagement. Pretty impressive for a bunch of primitive bipeds, wouldn't you say? The ambassador remained silent, which was probably the smartest thing they'd done all day. And you know what the really interesting part is? Chun continued, examining his perfectly manicured nails. Throughout all those discussions, there was always one constant. You don't attack medical personnel. You don't target hospitals. And you absolutely, positively do not blow up clearly marked hospital ships carrying thousands of helpless patients. He looked up, dark eyes glittering. Would you like to know why? The ambassador's translator crackled with static as they stammered. Our high command wishes to express deepest regret. It's not because we're nice, Chin cut in, though we try to be. It's not because we're squeamish about violence. Trust me, we wrote the book on that. It's because even the most bloodthirsty warmonger in human history understood one simple fact. If you make medics fair game, nobody gets medical care, including your own people. He stood, straightening his immaculate uniform. But you know what? That's not even the main reason anymore. The main reason is that we've spent the last few centuries trying very hard to be better than our ancestors, to rise above our baser instincts, to prove that humanity could be more than just clever apes with guns. The Admiral's smile was not pleasant, and you just gave us the perfect excuse to stop trying. The retaliation of memes and merriment. The first sign that the Celluloid High Command had made a terrible mistake came 3 hours later when every human ship in their space simultaneously disappeared from sensors. Not through any obvious cloaking technology or sensor jamming. They simply winked out of existence between one sweep and the next. The second sign came 2 hours later when their most heavily fortified military installation, Deep Space Fortress Immutable, ceased all communications. When the rescue fleet arrived, they found the station intact, but completely empty. No signs of battle damage, no bodies, just 8,000 Celluloid personnel gone without a trace, leaving half-finished meals and still warm beds behind. The third sign was when their orbital defense grid started broadcasting "Never Gonna Give You Up" on all frequencies. This was particularly concerning as none of their computer systems had any record of the song being added to their databases, and no one could figure out how to make it stop. By the time the fourth sign appeared, all their military AI simultaneously developing a crippling addiction to cat videos. the Lloyd leadership was starting to suspect they might have miscalculated. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez poked her head into Chen's office. "You might want to see this." Chen looked up from his terminal, where he'd been watching the Lloyd response to Operation Petty Revenge with undisguised glee. "What is it? Remember how we were worried about their cybernetic enhancement programs? The ones they were so smug about. The ones they claimed made their troops superior to mere organic soldiers." "Yes, I recall," Chen smiled. "What about them?" Rodriguez's grin matched his. "Well, it seems someone, and I'm not pointing fingers here, may have hacked their neural interfaces to make them experience an overwhelming compulsion to break into synchronized dance routines whenever they hear music." How fascinating. And completely unrelated to the fact that we just uploaded the entire Broadway musical catalog to their military command network, I'm sure. Pure coincidence, sir. Though I have to say, watching their elite shock troops perform Cell Block Tango was memorable. Chen leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "You know what the really hilarious part is, Lieutenant? We haven't even started fighting back yet. This is just us having some fun while Fleet Command finishes their coffee." The discrepancy between doctrine and reality. The Lloyd War College had extensive files on human military doctrine. They had studied Earth's martial history exhaustively, analyzing everything from ancient Roman legion tactics to modern space warfare theory. They had contingency plans for dealing with human aggression, human treachery, and human technological innovation. What they had not prepared for was human venom. They did what to our battle meditation chambers. High Commander Zix demanded, multiple eye stalks twitching in agitation. Replaced all the incense with something they called liquid ass, the junior officer reported miserably, and somehow modified our environmental systems to make it impossible to filter out. But that's not even tactical. What possible military advantage? "Oh, it gets better," another officer chimed in. "Remember those new quantum encrypted command codes we were so proud of? They didn't crack them. They just changed all the verification responses to quotes from something called SpongeBob SquarePants." The High Commander slumped in their gravity couch. "Surely our actual military assets are still." "Well, about that, the first officer consulting their datapad. Our entire drone fleet is now running something called Windows Vista. Whatever that is. The targeting computers on our capital ships have been reprogrammed to play something called Space Invaders. And our ground forces? What about our ground forces? They're fine, except that all their combat helmets now project a holographic OO face over their visors. We can't turn it off." The High Commander didn't even bother asking what an OO face was. They had a feeling they didn't want to know. "Admiral," the comm officer's voice was carefully neutral. "We're receiving a transmission from the Lloyd High Command. They're requesting terms of surrender." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Already? We haven't even deployed the murder hornets yet." "The what?" "Never mind. What are their conditions?" The officer checked his display. "They're offering immediate withdrawal from all disputed territories, full reparations for the Nightingale incident, and, sir, are you sure this is right? They're also offering, and I quote, 'Please make the Rick Astley stop. We're begging you.'" Chen pretended to consider this for a moment. "Counteroffer. They get all that, plus they have to rename their flagship HMS Bodie McBoatface. Sir, with all due respect, is this really appropriate behavior for?" "Lieutenant, they blew up a hospital ship. If they wanted appropriate, they shouldn't have given humanity moral permission to act like petty teenagers with a grudge and access to military-grade technology." Chen's expression hardened. "Besides, this is actually mercy. Do you know what the Australians wanted to do to them?" The officer blanched. "No, sir, and I don't think I want to." "Wise choice. Now, inform the Lloyd High Command that we accept their surrender pending the ship renaming ceremony. And tell Admiral Wong she can stand down operating Space Emu. We won't be needing it after all." "Thank God," the officer announced under his breath. Lessons learned the hard way. 3 months later, in a bar on Nova Mars, a junior Lloyd diplomat was drowning their sorrows when a human sat down next to them. "Rough day?" the human signaled the bartender. The diplomat's tentacles drooped. "You could say that. We just finished implementing the last of the surrender terms. Do you know how hard it is to reprogram an entire military network to play La Macarena every time someone tries to access weapons controls? Couldn't you just, not try to access weapons controls? We're a warrior species. Combat readiness drills are mandatory. The diplomat slumped further. Do you know how many warriors we lost to dance-related injuries last month? The human tried, not very successfully, to hide their grin. That does sound rough. But look on the bright side. At least you learned an important lesson about attacking medical facilities. Oh, we learned several lessons. The diplomat knocked back their drink. Like humans have way too much time on their hands, and spontaneously invented glitter should be tried for war crimes. Hey, you got off easily. You should have seen what we did to the Vis set when they tried to claim Jupiter was in their sovereign space. The diplomat straightened, I stalked swiveling with interest. What did you do? Let's just say their ruling council still breaks out in spontaneous interpretive dance. Whenever someone says the word moist, the human grinned. We're not bad people, We just have a very refined sense of proportional response. You replaced our entire military database with something called Neon Cat. Yeah, but we didn't kill anyone, did we? Well, except for that one guy who laughed so hard he fell into a quantum singularity, but that was technically an accident. The diplomat considered this. You know what the scariest part is? We actually gained respect in the galactic community after this. Everyone else thought we were crazy to provoke disturbances in the first place. Oh, the human raised an eyebrow. Why is that? There's an old saying among the elder races. Humans are like the galaxy's golden retrievers. Friendly, clever, eager to help. Right up until you hurt someone they're protecting. Then they're wolves with nuclear weapons and a really twisted sense of humor. The human laughed. That's pretty accurate, actually, though I would have gone with cats with anxiety disorders and orbital strike capabilities. The really infuriating part, the diplomat continued, warming to the subject, is that we can't even complain about it. Every time we try to protest your methods to the Galactic Council, they just played back the footage of the Nightingale explosion and asked what we expected to happen. Well, what did you expect? Honestly, we expected you to respond with overwhelming military force that we could have handled. It's familiar territory. But this, the diplomat waved their tentacles expressively. You turned our entire military-industrial complex into a giant meme. Our warriors are afraid to go near computers in case they start playing something called Baby Shark. Half our fleet won't even power up their engines without first saying pretty please with sugar on top to their AI systems. And the other half is too busy trying to figure out why all their tactical displays now show something called ooh-woo face. The diplomats signaled for another drink. Do you know we had to completely rewrite our military doctrine? The new first principle is, don't make humans feel justified in being petty. The human nodded sagely. Wisdom comes from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. Like thinking that humans would respond to an atrocity with simple violence instead of whatever you call this, the diplomat countered. We call it proportional response with style. The human stood up, leaving some credits on the bar. Oh, and by the way, that drink you just ordered? The replicator is programmed to only serve it while playing What's New Pussycat on repeat. The diplomats I stalked all focused on their glass in horror, just as the first note started playing. You monsters, they whined. The human just winked and walked away, humming along. Galactic lessons and the human touch. In the aftermath of what became known as the hospital ship incident, or that time humanity weaponized musical theater in some circles, the galaxy learned several important lessons. 1. Don't attack medical facilities. This should have been obvious, but apparently some people needed a reminder. 2. Humans have a surprisingly nuanced understanding of psychological warfare, most of which seems to involve finding new and creative ways to be incredibly annoying. 3. Any species that thinks having superior technology means they can ignore basic rules of warfare probably haven't considered how that technology can be repurposed to play Never Gonna Give You Up on infinite loop. 4. The Geneva Conventions weren't created to restrict humanity's capacity for violence. They were created to restrict humanity's capacity for creative pettiness. 5. There are far, far worse things than being defeated in honorable combat. Like having your entire battle fleet's command and control systems replaced with Tamagotchis that need constant attention or they get sad and won't let you fire your weapons. As for Admiral Chun, he retired shortly after the incident, citing a desire to pursue other interests. He now runs a consulting firm specializing in innovative conflict resolution strategies, which mostly involves teaching other species how to be just annoying enough to avoid actual warfare. The Nightingale was rebuilt, bigger and better than before. Its new design includes several interesting features, including a state-of-the-art defense system that, when activated, somehow manages to hack any hostile targeting systems to display nothing but pictures of cats wearing bow ties. The Cieloid military, meanwhile, has developed a peculiar new tradition. Before any major strategic decision, they ask themselves, what would humans do to us if this goes wrong? The fact that this question usually leads to immediate revision of their plans is probably not a coincidence. And somewhere in the depths of space, a Cieloid battle cruiser, formerly known as the indomitable pride of the Empire, continues its patrol route under its new name, HMS Bodie McBoatface. Its crew has long since given up trying to prevent the ship's AI from adding uwu to the end of every official communication. Some say that on quiet nights, if you tune to the right frequency, you can still hear Rick Astley echoing through the void, a reminder that some lines should never be crossed, and that humanity's response to atrocity isn't always the simple violence everyone expects. Sometimes it's much, much worse. It's Show Tunes, a comprehensive guide to not doing stupid things. And that's why we're having this mandatory galactic seminar on why you shouldn't make humans mad. A comprehensive guide to not doing stupid things, the Galactic Council representative announced to the assembled diplomats from 200 Ashian species. One Ashian raised their crystalline appendage. Is this really necessary? Surely we all understand basic. 3 weeks ago, the representative interrupted. Someone tried to claim ownership of the concept of pizza. The humans responded by broadcasting the entire history of pineapple as a topping to their cultural database. I failed to see how that's a punishment. The claimed species were a lactose-based intelligence. The mere concept of fruit on dairy caused a minor religious crisis. The room whined together. Another diplomat, this one a floating cloud of sentient plasma, pulsed with curiosity. But surely that wasn't isolated. Last month, the representative continued relentlessly. The Heiser Consortium attempted to impose transit fees on medical supply routes. The humans responded by reprogramming their entire banking system to process transactions exclusively in something called Dogecoin. That doesn't sound so. Their economy is still trying to recover from the meme-based inflation. The representative's expression suggested they were developing a headache. And don't even get me started on what happened when the Youth Federation tried to ban coffee imports in human space. The room was very quiet. Everyone had heard about the coffee incident. Several were still in therapy. Spite Sciences Division. Meanwhile, in a secret facility on Earth's moon, which wasn't actually secret, humans just labeled it that because it sounded cooler. A special task force was hard at work. All right, team, Director Sarah Chun. Yes, that Chun. It turns out Spite runs in the family. Addressed her staff. Status report on Operation Party Popper. A harried analyst pulled up a holographic display. We've successfully mapped the entire galactic meme ecosystem. Any species that so much as thinks about violating medical neutrality gets an immediate cultural payload of early 21st century internet content. Excellent. And the emergency response protocols. Another analyst, this one sporting a t-shirt reading Spite Sciences Division, raised their hand. We've expanded beyond Rick Astley. We now have the capability to deploy everything from Nyan Cat to that one video of a guy eating corn on a drill. What about the new defensive systems? A technician, who appeared to be made entirely of caffeine and bad decisions, grinned manically. You're going to love this. We've developed what we're calling the UNO reverse card protocol. Any hostile action against medical facilities automatically results in the attacking species' entire entertainment network being replaced with medical training videos. Standard medical training? 8-hour lectures on proper hand-washing techniques in PowerPoint with Comic Sans. Director Chen nodded approvingly. That's borderline evil. I love it. What else? Well, a quantum computing specialist chimed in. We've also perfected the "why are you hitting yourself" algorithm. Any weapon system targeted at medical ships automatically redirects to play practical jokes on the attacking fleet instead. Define practical jokes. Last week we tested it on some pirates. Their targeting computers now require them to solve dad jokes before weapons will fire. The specialist's grin expanded. We also made their ship AI speak exclusively in Owod. How many of them surrendered? All of them. 2 crews actually requested political asylum just to escape the Awo speak. Director Chun paced thoughtfully. Good. But we need something more, really special for serious violations. A junior researcher who had been quietly vibrating with excitement finally burst out. What about deploying K-pop? The room fell silent. Even for them, that seemed extreme. Explain, Chun commanded. Well, we've analyzed the Siloid incident, and while the Rick Astley deployment was effective, modern problems require modern solutions. I propose Operation Boy Band, a graduated response system using increasingly catchy pop music. Go on. Level 1 is your basic earworms. Baby Shark, what does the fox say, that sort of thing. Level 2 deploys classic boy bands. Level 3 is K-pop. And for truly serious violations, the researcher paused. Level 4 is It's a Small World After All on infinite loop. My God, someone whispered. That's against the Geneva Suggestions. The Geneva Suggestions, Chen reminded them, didn't account for people bombing hospital ships. Besides, we're not hurting anyone. We're just helping them develop a deeper appreciation for musical diversity, medical neutrality, and tactical trolling. In a certain bar on Nova Mars. Yes, that bar. It had become something of a diplomatic hotspot since the incident. A group of alien diplomats were sharing horror stories. And then they replaced all our military alerts with something called vines. The Zetian ambassador was saying. Do you know how hard it is to maintain martial dignity when every incoming missile warning is just road work ahead? Yeah, I sure hope it does. A hegemony representative waved their sensory tentacles sympathetically. That's nothing. When one of our merchant guilds tried to corner the market on medical supplies, the humans didn't just crash our economy. They somehow made it run entirely on something called Club Penguin coins. What's a penguin? We're still not sure. But apparently they're very good at tipping icebergs. A newly arrived diplomat hurried up to the group, looking disturbed. Have you seen the latest? The humans just announced they're establishing something called the Department of Tactical Trolling. The bar collectively shuddered. It gets worse, the aide continued. They're saying it's a subdivision of their medical defense forces. They're calling it preventative medicine. How is psychological warfare preventative medicine? According to their press release, and I quote, "The best treatment is prevention, and the best prevention is making sure everyone understands exactly how creatively petty we can get if they mess with our medical ships." A grizzled veteran in the corner who had survived the coffee incident spoke up for the first time. You know what the really scary part is? It's working. There hasn't been a single attack on a medical facility in months. Not because everyone's dismayed of ending up like the Soloid, but because everyone's dismayed of ending up in the humans' next training exercise. Did you hear what they did to that asteroid belt that was threatening a medical transport route? The bar said in concert, they reprogrammed all the mining robots to perform synchronized swimming routines in hard vacuum to stay alive. But that's not even a threat. Exactly. The veteran took a long drink. They did it just to prove they could. That's the thing about humans. They'll spend enormous amounts of time and resources setting up an elaborate joke just to make a point. And their point is usually, don't make us get creative. Back in the lunar facility, Director Chun was reviewing the latest reports when an alert flashed across her screen. What is it? She asked, noticing the urgent tag. Her AI assistant, which had insisted on being named HAL 9000 for reasons no one wanted to examine too closely, responded, "We're detecting unusual activity in the Carina Nebula. Someone appears to be attempting to establish a toll booth on the main medical supply route." Chen's eyes narrowed. Really? After everything that's happened, someone still wants to play this game? It appears to be a species that recently achieved FTL travel. They may not be fully aware of recent history. A slow smile spread across Chen's face. Well then, I suppose it's our duty to provide them with a proper education. Initiate Operation Jazz Hands. Are you sure that protocol hasn't been tested outside simulations? There's no time like the present. Besides, I've always wanted to see if we could actually make an entire fleet perform Singing in the Rain in space. With all due respect, Director, isn't that a bit excessive? Chen's smile amplified. Al, what's the first rule of human medical defense? Don't start none, won't be none. Exactly. And the second rule? If you do start something, we will finish it in the most embarrassingly memorable way possible. Exactly. Now, deploy the jazz hands and make sure we get good footage. This one's going in the orientation video. As alerts went out and systems spun up, Chen couldn't help but reflect on how much the galaxy had changed since the hospital ship incident. They hadn't eliminated war, but they had made it significantly more embarrassing to start one. And sometimes that was enough. Besides, she thought as she watched the first reports of confused aliens trying to figure out why their ships were suddenly playing all that jazz, there were worse ways to maintain peace than through weaponized musical theater. At least they hadn't deployed the YMCA protocol yet. Galactic Council Advisory Notice. The following activities are now classified as asking for it. 1. Attacking medical facilities. Risk level. Extreme. Potential consequences include, but are not limited to, permanent Rick-rolling, involuntary participation in flash mobs, and having your entire species' historical database replaced with vines. 2. Interfering with medical supply routes. Risk level. Don't even think about it. Warning. Humans have somehow weaponized TikTok dances. We don't understand how. We don't want to understand how. 3. Attempting to profit from medical emergencies. Risk level. Are you actually this stupid? Reminder. Remember the coffee incident? That was them being nice. 4. Claiming medical technology patents that aren't yours. Risk level. Do you even history, bro? The humans have an entire division dedicated to creative copyright enforcement. Their legal team includes mimetic warfare specialists. 5. Any attempt to monopolize, restrict, or otherwise mess with medical care. Risk level. Your funeral. Just don't. Please. We're running out of therapy resources for species traumatized by human corrective measures. Remember, medical neutrality isn't just a good idea. It's the only thing standing between you and having your entire civilization's communication systems reprogrammed to speak Inuwu. This has been a public service announcement from a Galactic Council's Department of Obvious Good Ideas. And please, stop making the humans creative. The Dance of Defense and Quantum Quirks. The annual Galactic Defense Summit was traditionally a serious affair filled with discussions of fleet movements, weapons technology, and strategic doctrine. This year was different. And here we see the latest advancements in medical ship protection, the human presenter said cheerfully, gesturing to a holographic display. We call it the Carlton Protocol. Etienne raised several eyebrows simultaneously. The what? Watch. The presenter pressed a button and a simulation began playing a hostile vessel approaching a medical transport, weapons charged. Delegates, the moment it entered firing range, its entire crew began involuntarily performing the Carlton dance from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But how? A mechanoid representative demanded. That's not even physically possible for most species. That's what makes it effective, the presenter beamed. The sheer impossibility of it causes an existential crisis in most would-be attackers. Last week, an entire pirate fleet surrendered after their bodies spontaneously recreated the Thriller choreography. This is insanity, a hive mind collective buzz. You can't defend medical ships with dance moves. Actually, Director Chen said, stepping onto the stage, the data suggests we can. And if that doesn't work, we still have the Baby Shark orbital defense grid. The room collectively shuddered. Meanwhile, in the depths of Luna's secret facility, now with a giant neon sign reading, "Nothing to see here. Move along." The research and development team was pushing the boundaries of defensive mimetic warfare. Okay, hear me out, Dr. Rodriguez said, standing before the project review board. What if we combined cat videos with quantum entanglement? Explain, Chin commanded, try not to look too interested. Well, we've already perfected the technique of escaping hostile targeting systems with cat videos. But what if we could make those cats exist in a state of quantum superposition? Meaning every time someone tries to lock weapons on a medical facility, not only do they get cats, they get Schrodinger's cats. The targeting computer simultaneously shows the cat being adorable and not being adorable until someone looks at it. A quantum physicist in the back raised their hand. Wouldn't that violate several laws of physics? That's the beauty of it. Rodriguez grinned manically. The sheer impossibility causes a cascade failure in any logical targeting system. Plus, it really annoys the AI weapons platforms. They hate paradoxes. Shin considered this. Any field tests? We tried it on a simulation last week. The AI had an existential crisis and decided to become a pet groomer instead of a weapons system. Perfect. What else? Another researcher stepped forward, this one wearing a lab coat covered in what appeared to be animated memes. We've developed something we're calling the Know You protocol. When activated, it reflects any hostile action back at the attacker, but with an added layer of embarrassment. Examples? Well, last trial, when a weapons platform targeted a hospital ship, its own medical bay was suddenly filled with rubber ducks, all of which were programmed to play bass-boosted versions of their own weapons charging sound. How is that defensive? Have you ever tried to maintain military discipline while surrounded by rubber ducks making dubstep noises? The grand strategy of annoyance. In a certain bar on Nova Mars, which had now been officially designated as a cultural exchange zone due to its high concentration of diplomatically significant shenanigans, a group of military attaches were drowning their sorrows. And then, a crystalline consciousness hiccuped, its facets reflecting the neon lights. They made our battle computers solve CAPTCHAs. But not normal CAPTCHAs. No, these ones asked us to select all images that contain existential dread. A vapor entity condensed sympathetically. Could be worse. When our automated defense network tried to scan a medical convoy, the humans somehow made it develop social anxiety. Now it apologizes before every scan and asks if it's being too intrusive. At least yours still functions, a quantum collective groaned. Ours started a blog about its feelings. The bartender, a grizzled human veteran who had seen it all, polished a glass thoughtfully. You know what your real mistake was? Assuming humans would respond to threats with violence. Isn't that normal? Sure, violence. We understand violence. Violence is simple. But humans... The bartender shook his head. We looked at the universe and thought, you know what's scarier than death? Social awkwardness. The Galactic Council's Department of Human Containment, recently renamed from Human Management, after the previous name, caused an incident involving productivity seminars and team-building exercises, was having an emergency session. They've gone too far this time, the chief administrator declared, holding a frantic report. Do you know what they've done now? Do we want to know? Several delegates asked simultaneously. Oh, you'd hate hearing about how we discovered penicillin. Kumar gasped. Or artificial sweeteners. Or the slinky. Actually, a lot of human innovations came from people either making mistakes or quietly ignoring the intended purpose of things. Speaking of ignoring intended purposes, O'Brien called out, I think I just figured out how to make the quantum destabilizer play music by manipulating subspace frequencies. Anyone up for converting it into the world's most overpowered speaker system? The Zixer scientists' patches all shifted to a uniform shade of what the humans had translated as existential dread blue. But why would you need a weapon-grade speaker system? Wave of Understanding asked, clearly dreading the answer. Need? Rodriguez laughed. Oh. You're still thinking in terms of necessity. Let me introduce you to a very important human concept, because it would be awesome. That's not a scientific principle, one of the junior Zika researchers pointed out. Sure it is. Some of our greatest achievements started with someone saying, wouldn't it be cool if... followed by something that probably should have been impossible. Kumar pulled up another display. Like this modification I'm working on that would let us use the quantum field to create holographic fireworks that can be seen from orbit. Fireworks from orbit? Flicker of reason repeated slowly. You want to use a planet-destroying weapon to create entertainment visible from space. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous, O'Brien said. We prefer to think of it as repurposing military technology for peaceful applications that also happens to be really cool. Besides, Kumar added, we already figured out how to make it environmentally friendly. The quantum light show function actually has negative carbon emissions. We're helping the planet while we entertain ourselves. The Zixer research team seemed to be struggling to process this information. Their appendages were twitching in what humans had learned to recognize as their version of a stress response. Oh, Rodriguez suddenly remembered something. We should show them what the engineering team did with the cooling system. You know, the modification that lets it generate snow for indoor skiing. You made it create weather? Wave of Understanding's patches flickered rapidly. Well, the quantum cooling array was already there. We just refined a bit. Now it can maintain perfect powder conditions for skiing while simultaneously making hot chocolate. AR beamed proudly. We're calling it the Winter Wonderland Protocol. The terrifying part, truly, Flicker of Reason observed to their fellow researchers, is that they're probably going to have this all working by next week. Oh no, the skiing function already works, O'Brien corrected. We tested it yesterday. Marketing wants to call it quantum powder, but we're still working on the trademark issues. Marketing, the alien's translator, seemed to glitch on the word. You're planning to sell this? Human defensive protocols advanced. 1. The Know You protocol reflects hostile action back at the attacker with an added layer of embarrassment. 2. The Why Are You Hitting Yourself algorithm forces enemy weapon systems to play practical jokes. 3. The Dramatic Chipmunk protocol turns all dramatic moments in enemy battle plans into recreations of the Dramatic Chipmunk video. Note, surprisingly effective against species that don't know what a chipmunk is. 4. The Wikipedia Gambit redirects all tactical queries to Wikipedia, but every article is about why attacking hospitals is bad. Current issues. Test AIs keep getting lost in linked chains about ancient Earth memes. 5. Ultimate Weapon. The Karen Protocol. Forbidden. Note, some lines even we won't cross. Director Chun, remember our job isn't just to defend medical neutrality. It's to make violating it so embarrassing that no one would even consider it. And somewhere in deep space, a ship captain received an alert about an approaching vessel with clear intentions. They didn't reach for weapons or shields. Instead, they simply pressed a button labeled Culture Shock. The approaching ship's crew suddenly found their entire computer system replaced with something called Club Penguin, and their universal translators would only communicate in Doge. They withdrew without firing a shot. Much defense, until someone else does something stupid. Wow.